Murray O'Hair. She died in 1995 at the age of 76. Turns out she was a socialist and the founder of American Atheists. She was also a Holocaust denier, I think, but she was notorious for suing public institutions to get prayer removed from public schools, or the words "In God We Trust" removed from American currency, or to forbid the Pope from holding a service at the Washington Monument, things like that. So I thought, well, it's kind of interesting to do a committed atheist, because I've done so many religious people who've been disappointed when they transitioned that God and Jesus weren't there to meet them. So I thought, yeah, I'll do this woman. However, when I found out later, after I'd done the pictures, how she died, this was the most gruesome thing ever. She and one of her sons, in fact, she disowned another one of her sons because he became a Baptist minister. She refused to speak to him again. But she and one of her sons and her adopted daughter were kidnapped in Texas and just vanished. And they were found buried later. One of their former employees had taken money and killed them with some accomplices. I think they were even dismembered. Just horrible to read about. But that was after I had done her pictures. And when I went into her energy, there she is, she was being compelled. This makes total sense now. She was being compelled to move forward, and she did not want to go. This might be the kidnapping, the abduction, because she was digging her feet into the soil and going, no, no, no. There wasn't a rope or anything. It was just some kind of force outside of herself that was compelling her to move into a tunnel. And as soon as she went into this tunnel, a metal door came down and slammed into the ground. Clang! And that was it. And she sat on the other side of the metal door, pondering what had just happened, baffled by it. She couldn't see very far down the tunnel. She crawled along, and there was a hill up that she had to climb over. There was an obstacle that said, no, 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 no. You're going to have to face up to something before you can move forward. And she went up the little blockage, looked over, and there was the rest of the tunnel and that symbolic cave I always see. It was like if you were to walk into a forest glade for the first time and breathe fresh air for the first time, or feel the wind on your face for the first time, or hear birds sing for the first time. A massive burden had been lifted, but not necessarily her belief system. It felt more like the fight. She was a fighter, a militant feminist. That had all been lifted, and she felt refreshed, invigorated, free for the first time, and emboldened, because this was an acceptable form of what death might look like to her. There weren't choirs of angels or Jesus stepping forward or whatever. This was symbolically a cave, a plain and simple experience that she could handle. And even when she went up the tunnel towards the light, it was still acceptable to her. It's like, oh, okay, this is where I go. Because it was devoid of meta-narrative. Nobody's idea of what God is, or what spirituality is, or how one should behave, or about prayer, none of that applied to this, which is exactly right. It's completely neutral. But it is loving, it is benign, it is welcoming. And Madalyn Murray O'Hair, after a particularly quick and gruesome death, was embraced by grace in the usual way, and it was completely acceptable to her. We each have that spark of the divine inside of us. And when we return to the light, we know we are returning home. It's like throwing a candle into a bonfire. The flames don't discriminate. It just all becomes one. And that's what this was. So a really tough ending for her. on the mortal side, but a loving, kind, welcoming end for her on the spiritual side.